What's up, guys? So Nui here. So I'm going to be talking about my technically my fifth build of the league and my fourth build that's specific to this league, I should say. So basically the fourth build that I crafted exclusively to this league and haven't played before. So this is going to be my first attempt in an RF build. I've never done RF. So I wanted to try out RF and play through that. I also wanted to try out a low life build because I got this nice little item that gives 100% increased damage while on low life. So I wanted to try out this build. I put it together and I plan on playing it out. As this is the fifth build that I made this league, and I finally have all the characters up to Act 5 right now. Every single one of my characters up to Act 5. I do not level one character up to max level or like end game content at a time. Instead, I do this odd leveling strategy where I level multiple builds at once. So I'll level and then I set level limits. So what I do is I will go up to 50 with every single build, and then I will take every character up to endgame, and then I'll start playing them all out. So that's why it takes so long for me to do full build guides, because I level several builds at a time instead of just leveling one build and then switching over to a new one and then leveling that build and then switching over to a new one. Instead, I play a variety of different styles at the same time, which gives me a lot more enjoyment when I play Path of Exile, because I'm always trying to learn, so I'm able to keep my excitement for the game by doing it that way, so that I'm always playing a different type of play style, a different type of leveling path, a different type of items, it's just so many different combinations of things that it keeps me really enjoying the game. So that's how I level. I don't really plan on changing anything like that, but because I do have all my characters up to level 50 now, I can say that all of them are going to be starting to hit their end game marks. So then more of my build guides will start coming out, and you'll see the full build guides and everything involved with those. So yeah, but let's head into this build and how I planned it out and how it's going to work together. So typically because I did a lot of research on RF builds, a lot of my other builds I kind of just theorize and then I just kind of play them out and see how they go. But I needed to do a lot of research for this build because RF can lead to a lot of deaths very easily if you don't balance the life regen, if you don't balance the energy shield regen, things like that, and you don't balance the items and fire resistance and stuff like that. You can die very, very quickly and very easily. So I needed to do a lot of research. I did a lot of research, both spent a lot of time in forums, spent a lot of time on YouTube, spent a lot of time in different Path of Exile channels on Twitch, just kind of watching people and examining what they did and trying to learn as much as I could about the skill to try to get it to balance out. Now, at current, I do have the character up to Act 5, but I don't have Righteous Fire fully sustainable just yet. As far as my build's concerned, I'm not sure if it's actually sustainable up before I get my Rise of the Phoenix. I'm going to keep playing around with it and keep doing as much as I can with it, but I'm not fully certain of that. However, I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm using a kind of odd method to be able to level with a Righteous Fire, where I am actually running 4 life flasks, and then I'm running a whole bunch of other stuff, but I'm running basically 4 life flasks, and that's letting me run RF right now because I'll basically just kill things and just keep moving through packs while keeping my life flask active, and that's letting me kill everything. So that's how I'm doing it right now, but I definitely want to get to an efficient point where I can efficiently balance RF, and I do know this build theoretically should work. However, I'm not fully. However, I think it should work out all right. I did all the numbers, I did all the math. It should be all right as far as everything. So I should have, as you guys can see over here, the stats should be there. So I should be all right as far as everything with that. I do have a ridiculous amount of fire res and some overcapped cold res and lightning res, so I don't really have to worry about reses or anything like that, which is why this build actually includes a lot of uniques. Most of them were pretty cheap. I will say that. However, one of them is going to cost me about 2 exalts. That is Chevrons. That is a pretty expensive unique. But other than that, everything was pretty cheap. It only cost me a couple chaos or a couple alchemy orbs. Nothing serious. So nothing really to break the bank, and nothing too bad. But heading into the skill tree, unlike other RF builds who kill everything or help out Oak so they get the life regen, I actually killed Alira or helped out Alira because I wanted the mana regen as well as the crit and extra resistances. I just like having really early resistances. It's just kind of a habit of mine. I didn't fully need it, but it's always just kind of my habit now to make builds with extra resistances in them. Mostly because I spend so much time using uniques that I typically forget to take into account the extra resistances from uniques, so I often just do it that way. But yeah, I'm going to be running a Chieftain, which I know a lot of people typically run champions or berserkers, but I wanted to run a Chieftain. I know there's a whole bunch of videos about how berserker's better, whatever, jug's better, whatever. I don't care about that. I just wanted to play a Chieftain. I wanted to play out the new Chieftain, and I wanted to get through it, so I made this build anyways, and this is entirely my wants and needs with my build. I'm very happy with it. So as typical RF goes, I just kind of headed through as much of life regen as I could, grabbed a ton of resistances, grabbed maximum endurance charges, as well as maximum fire res and extra life and extra fire resistances, as well as a bunch of fire damage. I did grab 2 dexterity bulk nodes just so I have enough dexterity to use Purity of Ice. So I needed to make sure I had enough dexterity in build, so I definitely grabbed those 2 nodes. So as you can see, expertise and agility here and here, so that I can get an extra 60 dexterity from this tree. This allows me to run Purity of Ice, so it's easy to get that way. I made sure to grab Sanctity for the life regen, as well as the extra energy shield. I grabbed Endurance. I also grabbed Elementalist for the extra elemental res, as well as elemental damage. And then I headed up through Faith and Steel, and then I made sure to grab Sovereignty so I could run a couple extra things, which actually made it a little bit difficult with this build because I needed to maintain low life while running Sovereignty, and if I run Sovereignty, it makes it a little bit more difficult to maintain low life because of the extra life you get. So I actually ended up about 41%, and it took me a couple minutes to figure out what I wanted to end up using to be able to get down to that 23%, which puts me at low life. But yeah, I just kept going, grabbed Zealot's Oath, Holy Fire for burning damage. I've been running a dual curse setup in this build, so I'm running Flammability as well as Elemental Weakness, so I can fully utilize this node down here, which is Elemental Equilibrium, because I'm using a Spell Totem setup, which brings out Ball Lightning, so that I can get Shock from that, which will give me extra damage from that, and then it also proc Elemental Equilibrium for me because the lightning damage will make it less resistant to fire damage. But yeah, I grabbed a Natural Calm for the extra energy shield, as well as the maximum lightning res, as well as the energy shield recharge rate. I grabbed Elemental Overload for the increased elemental damage if I crit, which is helpful for the which is also helpful for Ball Lightning because it has a pretty good crit rate, and Shield Charge will have increased critical strikes on it, so I can get crits from that. This build does include 3 jewel sockets, so you can fill those things with like flat energy shield, elemental damage, life regen, energy shield regen, things like that, or what you're looking for with those jewel sockets. I grabbed this entire node with Foresight for the increased energy shield, as well as Path to the Servant for the increased spell damage and mana and intelligence. I grabbed Melding for the increased energy shield, as well as just for the increased energy shield. I'm also grabbing Pain Attunement as well as Arcane Vision, so I get 30% more spell damage while on low life, as well as turning my light radius based off my energy shield instead of my life, because I am running low life on this build, at least I intend to. I'm going Deep Wisdom as well as Arcane Focus, and then I grabbed all these nodes up to Energy Shield, but not including it. I then grabbed the Growth and Decay for the increased damage over time, as well as the Life Regen. And I also grabbed Cold-Hearted Calculation for the increased spell damage, as well as the mana regen rate, and lastly, Nullification for the increased evasion, or increased energy shield, as well as the elemental resistance from this. So yeah, this is how the tree kind of plans out. This is everything involved with it. This is how it'll stretch out overall. I would do a full build guide so you guys can see my leveling process and everything like that. But this is how the full skill tree will plan out and how everything will look as far as everything involved with that. So heading over, before I get ahead of myself, let me talk about my Ascendancy and why I took Chieftain. So with my Ascendancy, I wanted to grab, I took the first part of it was Telos Force Strength, which gives increased maximum life regeneration per endurance charge. There's 5 endurance charges in this build, 2 from tree as well as 3 normal. So that gives me 2%, 2.5% maximum life regeneration per second per endurance charge. And then it gives me 30% increased fire damage per endurance charge, so that's nice, as well as extra life regenerated per second. And then I head up and grab Ramako's Sunlight, there we go, which gives 100% fire resistance, 1% of life regenerated per second, 10% of physical damage from hits taken as fire damage, and 2% of life regenerated per second if you've taken fire damage from a hit recently. It also makes me unaffected by Ignite, which basically gives me the same give me the same as far as my mind works for it, it should give me the same effect as having my Rise of the Phoenix. However, I'm not fully certain on that yet. That's why I still included Rise of the Phoenix with this. I might switch the shields out if it does work with that. But this theoretically should allow me to run Righteous Fire at as soon as I get the Crew Lab. Right now I'm running it in a very broken way, but I mean, it should be fully sustained by the time I get to Crew Lab, and maybe we'll grab Ramuka's Light. And then I'll grab Aruhangui's Moon Presence. I think that's how I pronounce it. So again, sorry. This gives me enemies near my totem deal less damage, as well as enemies near my totems take increased fire damage, which is huge for us because we're all fire damage. So RF is giving us a really nice. It also gives me a little bit more life regen. And then the last thing I'll take is Nomu's Flame Advance. This isn't incredibly important. However, there's nothing else really better, and it just gives me extra 10 fire damage anyways. I kind of debated on not taking this and end up just taking this instead, just for the extra life regen and totem placement C, but it really doesn't particularly matter or anything like that. So this is just kind of what I settle on. I might end up doing this anyways though, just for the extra life regen. So I don't know. But that'll be my last. That's Uber Lab anyway, so it's not really a big deal. It's not something I have to worry about. Okay, so heading into items, this is the item I did get. This is the faded version of it, which includes onset, but I got the original version of this. It gives 100% increased damage when on low life, which is the entire reason I made this build about low life. Is that I wanted to make use of that because I just got it in. First time I ever really had this unique, so I wanted to make something really cool with it and maybe fun to play with. So this is how I ended up setting on. It gives me 100% increased damage on low life, and that's pretty much the majority of the importance of that item to my build. The next thing is I have Rise the Phoenix. It gives me elemental res as well as fire resistance as well as regeneration, life regen. It also gives me 25% increased fire resistance while on low life and 10% increased movement speed while on low life. It also makes me unable to be ignited while on low life. So from what I can tell, that's why I said this might be pretty much similar to this, because I essentially shouldn't be able to be ignited while, or I essentially shouldn't take degen burn as long as I have that, but I'm not fully certain on it, so I kept the Rise of the Phoenix anyways. However, If this does work, then I can always switch to a spell damage shield or something like that, with extra elemental resistances from that. The next thing I took is a Deodri's Scorn Circuit. The reason I wanted this is because it gives me the +2 to level socketed curse gems, which is important, and then it gives me increased elemental damage as well as increased damage with hits and ailments per curse on enemy. Because I'm running a dual curse setup, this gives me a really long curse. It gives me 40% increased curse duration. It gives me really nice energy shield, and then it also gives me essentially 70% essentially 70% increased damage per while I'm next to something that I've cursed. So it's really nice with my build because I'm dual curse. The next thing is the most expensive item in the build, which will be a Shavron's Wrappings. I need this because I'm running low life. I don't want cast damage going through my energy shield. This also gives me some spell damage as well as, you know, just a faster start to my energy shield recharge. So that's the main use. However, this item is extremely expensive. It's about 2 exalts, so I really have to save up and farm for this to get it. The next thing I took is Namahu's Tiki Coral Amulet. This gives me flat life regen as well as increase the fire damage. It also gives me fire resistances as well as 1% increased life regenerated per second while on low life. You know, because I'm always going to be on low life, it's just extra life regen for me. I then took 1 Ember Wakes and 1 Brine Rocks. The reason I took an Ember Wakes is it gives me increased fire damage as well as an extra ignite and lets enemies burn slower. And then I took a Brine Rocks because I wanted the +3 level of Socketed Golem skills. So I get essentially I'll get a level 23 Earth Golem, so that gives me even more life regen as well as some extra spell damage and some extra lightning res. And then the last thing I took is a Beta Breath Chain Belt, which gives me flat 10% increase to damage, as well as flat energy shield, as well as maximum energy shield, as well as energy shield recharge rate. So, you know, it's always just nice to tie through. I haven't fully looked into flask setup yet because I'm still leveling, but I will and have that ready for you guys when I do the full build guide. So that'll be there for you guys. The last thing I want to cover is the skills. So I'll be doing Righteous Fire on my Bardian armor. So I'll have Righteous Fire, Burning Damage, Concentrated Effect, Elemental Focus, Efficacy, and Increased Area Effect. I'll then do Shield Charge with Shield Cards, Faster Attacks, and Increased Critical Strikes. I will take that Stone Golem. This will be my level 23 Stone Golem because of that jewel. And then we'll be running Immortal Cast 1 Damage Taken, Immortal Call, Flammability, and Elemental Weakness to set up my dual curse setup, as well as giving me Immortal Call. So these will be level 22 curses because of that Deodri's Scorn Lunaris Circuit that we have. I'll then be running, this is where my buffs come into play and why I took that extra nodes to reduce reserved mana. So I'll run Period of Fire, Vitality, Period of Ice. All of these will be mana reserved and leave me with enough mana to cast my spells and stuff like that, which is basically my totem. And then for Blood Magic, I will run Blood Magic, Discipline, and Clarity. So that'll put me at low life while giving me the increased energy shield and stuff like that. And then the last thing I'll run is Ball Lightning with a spell totem. I'm not sure if I'm going to run Volley or GMP or what I'm going to run else with this. Again, I will have that ready for you guys when I do the full actual build guide. But this is my basic theory and what I've theorized with this build and what I am so far looking into playing and finishing up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this run through real quick of just my basic theory on the guide and what I plan on doing. Be sure to leave your thoughts, comments, and reactions below. I love to listen to them. I'd love to read them. And if you guys have any tips or anything to help me out, that would be great. I would always appreciate those. But this is what I am planning. Again, I have reached my 5 build mark, so I will be making sure that I reach end game with every single one of those builds, and then I will have full guides out ready for you guys before I make any new builds. So this is what I intend, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will catch you all later. Nui out.